Good morning, everybody. At
Morning.
the outset, we would like to express our gratitude to you for having accepted our invitation to be part of the second conversation, Tamil Nadu Smiling, organized by the Intergroup on the topic Are Consumers Back with a Vengeance? My name is Rajasimhan. I am the senior editor of the Into Business Line. This webinar on retail is part of the group's ongoing campaign to create awareness among consumers, business owners, traders, and customers on the days ahead and put a smile back on their faces and leave behind the impact of the COVID pandemic. As we all know, since March, the pandemic has applied the brakes on an already slowing Indian economy. Consumers fled the scene, not sure how the future will unfold. But months later, as the lockdown eased gradually, they are now coming back. In fact, early numbers suggest that they are returning with a vengeance. With a strong revival in consumption sustaining, will this festival season set the pace for economic growth and recovery? To discuss these issues in the webinar today, we have three eminent panelists from the retail sector who have created well-known brands in the industry. Let me take the pleasure of introducing them, starting with Jayashree Ravi, founder of Palam Silks. She is the daughter of renowned silk merchant Dr. Nalli Kuppuswamy Chettiar of the Nalli fame. She started her brand with two cupboards and one salesman and 60 saris. And in a short span of just 15 years, she has created a brand of excellence with over unique of almost 50 design concepts with Kanchipurams. We also have Sharat Narasimhan, Managing Director of Indian Terrain. He has over 2 decades of rich experience in the garment industry. He brings with him not only a strong insight and knowledge into the consumer buying behavior, but also a unique entrepreneurial and operational ability of building businesses virtually from scratch to a reasonable scale. In fact, Indian Terrain is today one of India's fastest growing branded apparel companies, catering to the needs of the cosmopolitan, mature, and upwardly mobile man. Finally, we are joined by Suhail Sattar, Chairman, Chennai chapter of the Retailers Association of India and co-founder of Hasbro Clothing. As part of RAI, he anchors the association's activities here. In fact, during the lockdown, he was involved in meeting various government officials to get clarity on policy-related issues in the retail sector. Hasbro is one of the largest clothing and accessory manufacturing houses in the country. Headquartered in Chennai, the company's successful brands are Basics, Genesis, Probase, and Basics Life. With that small introduction, let me start the discussion with a very common topic to all the three panelists. Despite the pandemic, in the last few days, we are seeing huge crowds in major shopping centers, including T Nagar. Does this indicate that consumers are back to shopping with a vengeance? I would like Jayashree to give her reply first, followed by Sharat and Suhail. Jayashree, can you start, please?
Uh, I think I wouldn't say that it's back, like what it was last year. I would say somewhere between 50-60% is back. But that's also something commendable because it happened within a very short span of time. Just like 2-3 weeks, people were back shopping for Diwali. So hope this goes on even post Diwali. But basically, when it comes to Palam, our experience is slightly different because we basically cater to more of the wedding customers. So weddings have been happening, but then yes, with smaller numbers. Uh, so that has impacted our sales a bit because wedding is one whole wedding trousseau. You have a lot of gifts and everything that they shop for. With smaller weddings, it has been a bit less. But hopefully, in the coming months, as the lockdown restrictions are lifted, I look forward to better months when we have bigger weddings, and then yes, people will be. That is when people will actually be shopping with vengeance, when the weddings grow bigger. So otherwise, I think otherwise it has been online shopping has been quite a on impulsive shopping. But this pandemic has taught us a little to concentrate on, focus a little more on savings. So we've got to see if they are get to be a little more cautious, or they are open to spending back again on impulse.
Sharath, your views, please.
Uh, Hi, morning. I think what we are seeing is that definitely I agree. It's not like a vengeance. People have been wanting to shop for a while now. So I think as early as August, September, people, as the lockdown started coming off, people did start shopping. I think we clearly are seeing that Chennai, as a large metro, as you all know, has multiple sources of income for people, and the IT crowd is a very big crowd, many of whom are either working from home or have gone back to their native places, and malls have not been operational till recently. But if you look at the rest of the state, which is driven a lot by business, it's driven a lot by entrepreneurs and self-employed professionals, consumption has been coming back steadily. Like Jayashri said, I would say somewhere between 60 to 80% of where it was earlier. And people have definitely been coming back to stores, checking out through online. But upcountry, Tamil Nadu definitely has rebounded a bit faster. Traditionally, Deepavali is very big and a very important festival in Tamil Nadu. And whatever happens, I have noticed over the years that the importance of this festival is extremely high for people in this state. And therefore, people save whatever be their means. People save for this occasion. People spend a little bit on this occasion because it means a lot to them. Whether you're a business person or you're just a professional, that sense of buying something new to start off the new year in a sense is important. So we've been seeing a steady coming back of customers. Yes, definitely better than where it was. I would say a little better than what even my expectation was initially. But are they really shopping with a vengeance, like as if they have never done before? Not really, because definitely people are a little bit more careful now. The pandemic, right, Jayashri rightly said, has made people think a little bit about savings, putting aside something. So they're spending for what they want. They're spending for what makes them feel good, not just look good, but what makes them feel good.
So, hey.
So I think all throughout the pandemic, I think all the essential businesses did very well. We have, as a chairman of RAI here, I've seen that all the essentials, all the other chapter members, whether it was a Koi Palamudir or whether it was a nuts and spices and so on and so forth, all of them done very well. I think apparel, like the two of them said, has been growing, and it's a very positive sign, frankly. COVID crash landed all of us, and I think for us to get back to normal immediately is not possible, and I don't think that we should be expecting that. Having said that, it's an extremely positive environment right now. Business is climbing. People are coming out to shop, and for us, I think because we're in apparel, I think that since we're smaller ticket items, I think our growth is looking better than a lot of other industries. So as a sign of revival, the apparel industry is a great bellwether for all of us. And we're definitely on the upward trajectory. I think that we should be able to get back to pre-COVID levels in the next couple of months, which is an extremely promising sign for us, saying that we've left it behind. And considering the fact that we don't have a vaccine as yet, if people are coming out and shopping, it's also confidence in the economy, confidence in business, confidence in brands that they're shopping in. So we're very positive right now, and we'd like to stay positive because I think positivity spreads. So I think it's a great sign. In specific, I think what Sharath said was right. Chennai as such is not done as well as the Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. Coimbatore, Madurai, all these places are doing extremely well. People are coming out. I think they're a little more confident right now vis-a-vis Chennai, where people think that the crowds will affect them. So, and for us, luckily, since the spread down south is good, it is positively impacted us. So we're very positive. All of us are smiling. We're releasing bonus this year, and we're looking to inject that positivity, all of us, on an individual level and an organization level, to bring us back to where we were.
I'll stay with you, Sohail. Since you are with the RAI, you have a larger picture of the state. Can you just give us some micro view on the retail scenario in Tamil Nadu and actually how the pandemic in fact affected the entire sector?
So frankly, in the middle of the pandemic, a lot of people were in very deep trouble. Paying salaries was difficult for some large groups. I won't give you names. We were very closely associated with them. And even in the essential businesses, we were seeking clarity from the government. The Tamil Nadu government has been very forthcoming, right? And we went and met officials several times. They're very practical. We met ministers, we met private secretaries, and they're very, very forthcoming. But it has deeply impacted a lot of people. And I think anybody who's not been financially disciplined all these years and who's been on the edge has, I think, taken some deep impacts. But anybody who's got their shop in order and who's able to draw and who's able to have some cash reserves, I think we're all doing okay. But this pandemic has bottomed out a lot of small businesses, and I think the largest area of concern, in my opinion, is the small businesses, 1 store owners, 2 store owners. I'm hoping the government does something for them. I think they will need some help to get back on their feet, because I think for most of them, they've emptied out their purses. I don't think they have any working capital. And if you can help them get back on their feet, they're all seasoned entrepreneurs. They're all, take the business forward.
Okay. Have you suggested from the association to the government on this?
We've spoken, and the association has spoken in the center. I think, we've all been looking for some kind of injection into the economy, but the government's not been able to do much.
Okay.
And so most of us have gone around and fixed our own problems. But that's what we've been asking for: some employment benefits, some salary benefits, some loan waivers. I think the government is now doing something on the loan waiver front, but some help with salaries would have helped in the thick of the pandemic from the government.
Correct. Jayashree, I'll throw a question to you. In this pandemic, the most discussed topic seems to be on the mental health of consumers. In the last few days, how do you think shopping and mental health are connected, and what sort of trends have you seen among your consumers?
Now with this pandemic, we have also opened up also the video calls and sales. But what happens is when I think particularly when it comes to saris and clothing, I think colors, it elevates your senses somehow. Sorry. And you really feel good when you go out shopping, and particularly even I have felt it when I go to the malls. I feel good because going through all the various stores and apparels and whatever it is, because there you don't feel the pressure of pressure to buy. I think that is something we will need to incorporate here also. So that's what happens. So certain things that we have learned also during this pandemic is without the pressure of buying, then it becomes a stress buster. Shopping is always a stress buster. You feel good, and one more thing is there's no pressure of buying, and one more thing, you can wear it on. There's a trial room. You can all that makes you feel good. It's an experience. The entire thing is a shopping experience. So I think that is something that will always be with connected to shopping, and that is what we are trying to give them now. We have based on this, we have it's not like the sari retail is where you have counters and you have the salesman attending. But here we try to see at Palam that we have separate browsing sections where they can just go through, browse, touch, feel, because that touch and feeling the fabric is also something that makes you, all that adds to all your various senses, the 5 senses. So okay. I think that's how shopping helps. When it comes to mental health, it's very important, and it is definitely a stress buster, is what I feel.
Okay, great. Sharath, staying with the concept of this, during the pandemic, safe shopping was a big issue and continues to be a big issue. Sharath, we would like to know as to what sort of measures you have taken to make people comfortable that shopping is quite safe.
A series of measures, Raja. In fact, as early as March itself, when guidelines came out. So stores, as and when they were allowed to open, a lot of standards being met, constantly cleaning up surfaces, our own staff being trained on how to handle customers, maintaining distance. In some cases, expecting a lower throughput of customers, we started rostering our staff so that there's not too many people. That was to give comfort. We also allowed lot of innovations, technology innovations. We rolled out I think among the first people who rolled out a WhatsApp-based catalog, which we could then engage with our loyal customers and our regular customers, allow them to continue to feel that, they are in a position to look for something interesting, something new, and then follow it up with calls by the sales staff who are trained on doing WhatsApp commerce. I think now it seems to be the standard way of doing things for many brands, but I would say we were among the first who started off as early as May on this whole thing. So that allowed a lot of customers to come in. Many of them came back to the store after having made their selections, spoke to, because there's a sense of familiarity with the sales staff, depending on where you're shopping, which part of the world, which part of the state you are. So that was something that they chose appointment time so that there was no crowds. But I think e-commerce obviously is big for everyone. It's considered safe, so people were able to do it. But we focused a lot on making sure that our stores are safe at all points in time. Less crowds, managed crowds. So those who came in felt that, listen, we are able to come comfortably without too much of a worry. Constant temperature checks, making sure that we're taking details and keep them informed.
Okay. Sohail, would you like to add on this?
So the truth is that Rai came out with a lot of guidelines that we all followed, Indian Terrain included. We ensured that our staff were also temperature monitored to see that, they were not COVID positive, and they didn't affect their colleagues, and they didn't affect the consumers. Trial room garments were kept aside. We kept a few trial room garments. We did a lot of hygiene measures, and luckily for us, it worked. And I think people coming back to stores is also on the consumers and an individual's part. It's an attempt to seek normalcy, because that's what life is, right? You go out, you go to stores, you shop. So we've been asking people to come back to our stores. We've ensured that our stores in great shape. We did a lot of e-commerce business as well, but like I said, you can't beat the experience of shopping in a store. So we ensured that the stores are safe environments, right? And we ensured that there were no COVID positive cases in our stores, and so on and so forth, to ensure that when a consumer comes back to a store, he feels safe, but he can attempt some normalcy. When you go back to a store, there's like Jayashree was saying earlier, or Sharath was saying, it's also on your mind. You've left the home, you've come, you've tried a few garments, you've seen color. It's something that brings normalcy, right? For all of us, shopping is also an experience, not just a chore. So we've been encouraging that. We've been making sure we're ready for it.
Okay, but anything special which you had to do it before and after the COVID to bring these consumers back to shopping?
So frankly, consumers wanted to come back. They were calling all our stores. They were saying, when are you opening? We didn't necessarily do much to let them know. I think everybody was glued to the TV and the newspapers. We did put it up on our social media channels, on our handles, saying that stores are open. We updated our Google Maps. We sent out SMSs to our customers saying that stores are now open. And we saw them all coming back. There were people who were waiting, for us to open our stores. And the moment we opened our stores, business started climbing again. The only, I think, place where it did not meet expectation, I think, is in malls, because I think people were somehow were worried about malls. So surprisingly, high street stores till today are doing much better than malls. So that's been a huge learning for us in this pandemic. And the malls didn't do as well, whereas, usually a mall does 2x or 2.5x of a high street store. But high street stores, people have considered them safe and they've come back. So I think, that was another discovery for all of us.
But typically, actually, the government also delayed opening up the malls. So obviously, that also would have had an impact on you people, right?
Yeah.
Was it a right move? In fact, considering that things were all picking up and they delayed it, was it kind of? Do you think
I
it is
think
a
that the
right?
government could have opened the malls earlier. I think that, frankly, the malls, since we're in touch with all the mall management also, they have put in a lot of effort to ensure that the malls are in great shape, they're hygienic, they're clean, sanitized, and all that. But I think that they couldn't make much inroads with the government. I think today theaters open, for instance.
Correct.
Today is the day theaters open. I'm hoping those guys do well as well. They're part of our industry. But the government could have opened up malls a little earlier. Yeah, they could have.
Jeshi, I'm just coming back to you. On the issue of labor scarcity, apparently there were too many worrying factors on how labor will be handled since the COVID was picking up in places like Kanchipuram, for instance. So how did you manage this big issue? Could you just throw some light?
See, for us, what happened was, unfortunately, most of our employees, they were from outstation. So we provided them with some staff quarters and they used to stay here. But due to this lockdown and due to the, most of them from other districts. Basically, if you even cross Porur, it's a different district, which we didn't realize even when we had employed them. We had considered that as part of Chennai. So those issues came up and several of them couldn't actually work with us during that time. And so what we had to do was we just had to actually pay them, but we had all sent them all back to their native places. So we had to manage with a few employees that we had within Chennai. But again, since the footfall was not so, not the usual, we were able to manage and we are still managing with less employees. I think that is also a learning that we have, something that we have learned during this pandemic, that we actually were a bit overstaffed in one or two locations. But then, yes, what we have done is we had financially supported them, those who went back to the native places. Till we encouraged them to take up jobs, in their local places. So now they are employed there. And we've told them, like, when things pick up and when we need more employees, of course, the first offer would be to them. And we are still in touch with them. And we are happy that they have been able to manage.
Okay. So the fear is gone among the laborers, kind of. The fear of coming to work, getting infected.
No, we are being very careful because even those who come from within Chennai, and we have a couple of them who have come back from the native places, but we don't want them too many staying in the staff quarters as well. So we've just asked only a few of them to come back, and we are taking care. We ensure that they don't use public transport. We buy them some two-wheelers. Those who are close by take bicycles or a two-wheeler, and we ensure that they stay safe even while commuting. And at the store, of course, we need to keep checking their temperature twice or thrice. And if they happen to take a leave, if they go back to their native place and come back, we have them tested and, we pay for that test. And because it's very important when they're going back to the staff quarters also, that even the 2 or 3 of them who are staying there need to stay safe. And the rest of them working need to stay safe. So these are measures that we will need to take for a few more months, I guess.
But typically, Diwali for silk sari, one of the big questions is what is new for the season. With the pandemic and you have issues like the labor, how did you sort out this issue? Obviously, there will be pressure on you. People will keep on asking something different this year. How did you, unlike the men garments, silk sari is quite different, right?
Right. Actually, it was surprising that people didn't ask, but I think it was the other way around. We surprised them with, because we had our concepts and Diwali collections ready. So I think it was the other way around. We surprised them with offering them that. See, what happens in Pattu saris is, now every sari takes at least a month minimum. And some takes even 2 to 3 months. So the production has always been slow. It is not like you can't churn out big numbers. And anything happens there. If there's rains, then production is stopped. If there's summer and if it's too hot and no electricity, the production slows down. If there's some Tiruvira festivals in there, hometowns, even then production stops. So we are so used to such interruptions in production. So what we do is generally, even when this Diwali ends, now we start
Okay.
with the next year's collection. So that's
Uh-huh.
how we were able to. So we had started last November, and luckily by January, our concepts were kind of, the designs were right, because for us, when it comes to this patasaris and all that, you have to keep in touch with the weavers, which is really not possible over the phone, or even on video calls. It's very difficult to explain to them what you actually want. If something goes wrong, this is not the kind of, how this is not how you want the placement of the butta to be, or the color to be. Very
Mm.
difficult. Luckily for us, since we usually anticipate such things like rains or summers or whatever it is, what we do is we work well ahead. And luckily for
Okay.
us, everything was ready by February. March was the lockdown. Since our new designs and material, everything was with them, we were
Mm-hmm.
able to also provide them with the job even during the lockdown. So I
Mm-hmm.
think it's just God's grace that things went well for us.
Sharath, I'd like to ask, what's been the impact of e-commerce on physical shopping? Apparently, this lockdown has been one where we see things like mobile, which was already online, but more of people going there. Was there a similar kind of a trend with garments also?
Yeah, absolutely. I think apparel shopping was always increasing on e-commerce even before the pandemic hit.
Uh-huh.
As more and more, it was becoming easier for people to shop, and access was becoming better, driven by the large marketplaces, as you all know. I think the pandemic only accelerated that whole thing in terms of people had a lot more time, could really, a lot of fringe customers who may have not even experienced e-commerce or were unsure, they all came in, they all started experiencing to understand how it is. So
Okay.
clearly, e-commerce brought in a lot of new customers. I think the only impact I would say is that it's there was a small shift of customers to e-commerce, but it has also brought in a lot of new customers.
Uh-huh.
Because like earlier the two panelists were saying, buying in store is an experience. It is not just about it's not like a chore. You just come in, pick up something and go,
Mhm.
whatever even if it's a menswear garment. You look for something. That interaction is important, fits are important. So there are customers who love to come back shopping, but technology has aided them to find their choice faster.
Okay.
Our e-commerce business also, and I'm sure the others will also have the same input, is dramatically moved up in the last few months. Our focus, however, is now shifting more and more to driving it through our own web stores, where
Mhm.
we're able to offer it in a manner, curate it, offer something new. Those who are getting used to it. So e-commerce is here to stay. I think in every other country in the world, our adoption rates of technology for a country of our is extremely high compared to many parts of the world.
Mhm.
And you will see a lot many more people moving into e-commerce. We'll also find that physical store brands like us, which are a lot of physical stores, will find a good balance between how to use e-commerce, how to use our own web stores, and how to use the physical stores. So it's going to
Okay.
become a bit more seamless as the days go by.
But typically, what was the mix before and what is the mix now between the online and offline shopping?
I think before we hit the pandemic, we would have been about 10% for e-commerce. I think the
Uh-huh.
last 6 months, it must have gone up to almost 35-40%. So it's a
Wow.
dramatic shift. But I
Mhm.
think as stores are now opening up more over the last 1.5 months, and there's a slow move towards a new normalcy, we see it
Uh-huh.
settling down. I would say it's settling down somewhere around 20% by the end of this year, and then over the next say year or two to about a quarter of our business.
Okay. 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 Suhail, what is your experience? Are you also having a similar kind of trend where people are actually coming to e-commerce and physical format?
Uh, the numbers might be similar, but frankly, what we're seeing on e-commerce is because of the onslaught of these marketplaces, e-commerce has
Uh-huh.
largely become a discount-driven business, right?
Okay.
And see, we're all about new season, fresh merchandise, new colors, new styles. Uh,
Correct. Correct.
so, in the short term, at least, I'm not about the medium or the long term. In the short term, at least, e-commerce has become a place for us where you liquidate old merchandise. For
Uh-huh.
most of us, including
Okay.
the marketplaces,
Uh-huh.
consumers want to come to a store, to shop in a store, to pay full price. Full price sale
Okay.
on e-commerce in India, I think it's still early days, because I think Indian consumers still prefer the touch and feel, going and seeing it. There are a small subsection of customers who prefer convenience and will pay for in-season merchandise. And unfortunately, the marketplace is all their communication. Every single communication of theirs is a price of communication. So I think they've led consumers down that road also, right? Saying that 50% off, 40% off, 60% off, 70% off. And that's not the business we're in. I'm not to say that we don't do EOSS and we don't sell merchandise at the end of the season on sale. But as a brand, our focus is on fresh, new, convenience, inspiration, and so on and so forth. So that's what e-commerce is for us as a journey as a company. We're keeping an eye out for it. We're hoping that as and when it pivots, we'll be there. We have a very functioning website. Our website functions very well. We do a considerable amount of business in the lower double digits. But I think that it's early days now, and I think with the Ajio coming in, Reliance coming in, and all that, I think the water's going to get further muddied. It's going to be a battle of supremacy between huge giants, and elephants are colliding there at that end. So for us, frankly, we're sticking to our knitting. We're giving great experiences, great merchandise at an offline store, whether it is a Shopper Stop store, or whether it's our own store, or whether it's a large MBO in Chennai like a Pothys or a Chennai Silks or a RMKV. We're focusing on those guys. We're focusing on the consumers who want young, fresh, cool, new merchandise. And that's where our focus is. Having said that, like I said, we're not ignoring e-commerce. E-commerce is definitely part of our plans.
Okay. But consumers have also become very tech savvy nowadays, right? So how is the entire sector adopted technology to grow their business? Since you're with the association, you would probably be in a better position to.
So I think the larger houses, business houses are all have a clear technology perspective. The smaller guys, I think, are lagging behind. And I think it's time all of us bucked up as an industry. And just to reiterate what Charat said, that now the focus for all of us should also be our own web stores, because frankly, that's why you curate the experience. You can keep the experience. You can speak in exactly the manner you want to speak. You can ensure that the brand's guidelines, the brand's vision, the brand's views are all kept together. All of us are doing it. I think for the smaller guys to climb on the bandwagon, it's time, and I'm hoping they do, because it's not something that can be ignored in the medium to long term.
Okay. But Jayashree, I would like to have a question on you. How are consumers using technology? Maybe I will ask Sharath as well as Suhail to follow on this. Could you just give a couple of examples also, if possible?
Right. Now, earlier we were doing video calls only with the NRIs. And it never struck us that we could use it with someone who's, in Chennai. And now, on hindsight, we think we could have marketed that. We could have said you can shop even during your lunch hours. Because online shopping is basically not just, it's a convenience, of course. It saves a lot of time. And then again, you can just browse and nobody is going to pressurize you to buy. And from any remote place. Now, all this was there. And but we have been using video calls only with the NRIs who couldn't come to the store. We never thought that we could use it even within Chennai. So now I find that somebody from Purusavakam is able to, does a video call and buy saris. And it's not just not a casual wear, not a casual sari. And she's shopping for something like 20K. And she billed for, 2 saris for 40K. We never thought. So I thought so much opportunities probably we have missed earlier. And we assumed that people would want to step into the store only and buy. But if they didn't find time, probably they would have been open to even do a video call. Because what happens is when you're in connection, you connect with the store, there's going to be some experts who are trained in the product, who will be able to give you the right kind of service. Someone with a little expertise and knowledge, which is something that we will be able to give only when we interact with the customer. And all this, I guess, now we have so many who are shopping, on WhatsApp. As Sharat said, we don't have catalogs as such, but when people get in touch with us, we have a database of 1,000, which has grown from 300 to 1,000 in a span of few months. Is
Mm-hmm.
something huge, and they just get in touch with us. We have someone who wants to, who interacts with them as to what kind of saris you want and colors you want, ranges you want. All this has been possible, and I find people now are more open. And what with these video calls, where you can, you have your aunt somewhere, you have your mother-in-law somewhere, mother somewhere, and particularly when weddings, when these so many restrictions were there, we found that the video calls were very helpful because they could log in from different places. So, what with the Zoom calls and WhatsApp videos, all this has been very helpful. And I think Indians, particularly, are very, we easily adapt to something. When we need to change, we quickly do. And that is what I feel has kept also the business going, because
Mm-hmm.
people are not very, they are open to change. They are uh, luckily, like, I hope this continues, because what happens is this opens up another avenue. Uh, uh,
Okay.
we all talk about omni-channel. You need your brick and mortar, you have your online, you have to
Mm-hmm.
serve them, and customer service. But I think this is going to open up various more venues through which we can sell, and that way I think the pie will grow bigger.
Okay. Sharad, would you like to add on this?
Yeah,
Maybe
I think
how?
I agree. I mean, consumers have also adapted to technology during this pandemic.
Mhm.
There are the regulars who have always been on e-commerce for a while, going to marketplaces. Yes, although it was mainly for discounts, but there were equal number of people who actually wanted to go to brand store websites to look for what is available. And we find that if you give them a good, seamless, quick experience on the web store, they are very happy to come, and they're very happy to kind of stay through that. It's an endeavor for us. We started this journey seriously in the last 4 months, and
Okay.
every month we're trying to add new features, make it easier, try to give them online experience that they would have kind of got at the store,
Mm-hmm.
which is mixing and matching. How do they go about their shopping at the store? They talk to the sales staff, they have an idea what they want. So to bring all those features in and make it easier for them to kind of feel that, yeah, I'm getting a similar experience, I think I can easily manage. So whether it
Okay.
was WhatsApp calling or catalogs on through WhatsApp, curated catalogs, by looking at data. So the other thing which
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody's spoken about it is the usage of data. We have tons of data about our customers buying preferences over the last maybe decade,
Mm-hmm.
but have we really used it? I think the pandemic taught us that we are sitting on a gold mine in terms of what that information is, and how can
Mm-hmm.
you use it better to know what they like, what their choices are, send them the relevant stuff, and make it easier for them to shop. So they adapt very quickly if we're able to understand their needs. So using AI tools, we also, I think, as a company, are starting to see that there is a lot more that you can do, uh, and
Okay.
you have to fast forward many of the things that you thought you can be done 12 months from today, or 10 months from today, because
Okay.
customers are definitely very receptive to all of these.
Okay. Suhail, I would like to deal on this supply chain issue. How you managed to overcome this challenge?
Uh, Specific when you say supply chain, you're talking about your manufacturing,
Basically, yes,
or
manufacturing and
so
also
frankly,
raw materials.
manufacturing came to a standstill for the first 3 months completely. Luckily for us, we had enough merchandise, enough fat in the system for us to bring back to supply our stores and supply all the various retail channels when we opened up. Luckily for us, we were there. And now all the factories are working, raw materials are working. It's a little slow though, frankly. The systems are not moving as fast as we would like them to.
Mhm.
But I think that we've been extremely blessed that we have a team that has pulled through for us. And when I say team, I mean my vendors, I mean our employees as well. But supply chain is affected for sure. Supply chain is affected, and for us as an organization, we pulled through because we've had old relationships. We had age-old relationships, in some cases 20, 25-year-old relationships with retail, with vendors. So we've pulled through, and I think it's all coming back. All transport services are working now. I think rail is not working. We used to use rail as alternative. Rail is not working. But we have enough alternatives for us to reach our factories and for the factories to reach merchandise to us and for us to reach our stores. We're supplying all over the country now. There's no state that we don't do business with, and we're able to reach them. It's a little late. So in some cases, you need to extend your planning by, say, 5 or 7 days. We just finished Durga Puja in the East. So, for instance, when you're reaching Durga Puja in the East, you need to do maybe 10 days earlier than you planned last year. But we've done it. And see, we're all entrepreneurs, we find a way. As long as there is consumption and we can find consumption, I think we'll find a way to meet consumption.
Okay, great. Sharad, did you face any supply chain issues, and how did you manage it?
Not really. I think like Suhail said, I agree. There was enough in the system to take the early part of the season. In fact, unfortunately, there were some. I think for us and I'm sure others, but we had a terrific range which was ready to hit the stores by 1st of April, and all systems go, and then the lockdown happened. So consumers never got to see a really good line, which they only started experiencing after May, June as we opened up. And by the time, things had stabilized over the last 2 months, factories also started coming back on stream. Across the board, we found that most of our partnerships, we have a deep partnership with many people, both across the country as well as length and breadth of the country. Everyone started getting back to full systems by August. So I think now more or less we are seeing the same thing, that you have to add another, say, a week to 10 days more to your entire planning cycle, at least for the next 6 months, I would say, till things completely stabilize. But labor is wanting to come back to work. So I think so long as the environment is safe and secure. We have a parent company which is purely in the manufacturing business and is one of the largest employers in the city. They were able to get back to full production within 2 months with this. Let's say we opened up in May. The city was allowed to open up in May.
Correct.
But I think by June and early July we were up to full steam.
Okay. Jayashree, just want to on this festival. Obviously, it's just 4 days away from Diwali. But do you expect the Diwali shopping, probably the demand itself, going beyond Diwali?
Hopefully it should go beyond Diwali. That is what we look forward to. But yes, what happens is now Diwali is generally is in October. Now it's almost mid-November. Now soon after this comes in Christmas and New Year, and then there is Pongal. So after that there is the month of Thai Masam, which is the bridal season. So hopefully this mood, just lives on, and it takes us forward through the rest of the financial year.
Okay. What do you say, Suhail?
We track the calendar and I think we're all looking forward to business post Diwali as well, because we're given to understand that there's a wedding season around the corner.
Correct.
And with the wedding season, I was hoping Jayashree would have said that as well. And then she said, so there's a wedding season. So we're hoping to see this demand. We think that maybe demand will dip in the last quarter, say post Jan, Feb, March looks a little shaky from where we are right now. But I think till December, we look like we're sorted. So we're very positive and we're keeping our fingers crossed. And we're hoping that this demand sustains and grows.
Good. That's a positive sign. But as a head of RAI, what sort of support you want from the government to give for retailers? Because Tamil Nadu, apparently, retail sector is one of the biggest in the country. I know you would have already taken up, but is there anything in the season, maybe post festive season, you want the government to interfere and say, look, sort out these issues?
So see, frankly, the government eased lockdown rules a few days back, sometime back, for us to extend our store opening timing. So I think the government is on top of most things. But if you would ask me, a single wish list for most retailers is help with employment. That is, how can you help us pay our wage bill, right? You understand that rental relief and all that is a private conversation between two parties. But I think on the loan front, I think the government's doing quite a bit. But if you'd ask me 1, 2, 3, one would be that can they do something on our wage bill, right? The government. That's one. Second is, so far there's been a loan deferment. We've all been asking for some loan waivers. Right? For most of us, some loan waivers or on those lines, where even if it's not a loan waiver, an interest waiver, interest has been deferred, interest has not been waived off. At least an interest waiver would help us all. I think that's 1 and 2. Third is, I think the government is frankly doing a lot of things as well, like extending shopping timings and all that. And we're hoping that there is no arbitrary lockdown, like we're seeing suddenly in the UK and in parts of Europe. I hope that the government doesn't do stuff like that. And I don't think most businesses, or for that matter, the country, can afford another lockdown.
Correct. So on that note, when can we expect a pre-COVID situation for the retail sector?
For me, fingers crossed, April 1st, 2021. 2021, April 1st.
Sharad?
I think so too. I think some states will bounce back faster. I think if you look at it, it's not a one-size-fits-all for India as a country. Tamil Nadu as a state, very high consumption-driven state, and already looking like they're bouncing back faster than what many other states in the country are. So I do think that, given the fact that between like what Jayashree was saying earlier, Diwali this time luckily being 14 November, and then within 2 months there is Pongal. I understand a lot of weddings that were earlier in the early part of the year planned have all been pushed out to now post Diwali.
Correct.
And then, like you said, February onwards, again, the weddings can start. So if you look at it, there's a series of potential triggers right through for the next 5 months of the year. And if a lot of the initiatives that the government's taking, these numbers stay where they are, you will see many more people coming out with more confidence. And I would think definitely that going into April 1st, we should be able to hit pre-COVID levels.
Jayashree, we hear you.
Hopefully from April, we should be doing well. That's what we've been looking forward to welcome the new financial year. But I think they should keep the level of awareness up even among the general public with regard to the safety measures, because it's all a chain reaction. If people are able to take safety measures, and then the COVID levels will come down, and they will still be able to move out and move around, because we definitely don't want one more lockdown because whatever is happening in Europe. So I feel if the government and the media also keeps this level of awareness with regard to safety, because we don't want them to come down in that everyone must wear masks and must take the precautions. That's good for the industry itself, because that's the only way they can bring down the COVID levels, and that's the only way everyone can do well.
Okay. Finally, from my side, the final question would be, what lessons the pandemic has taught you? Maybe I would like all the three of you to respond in terms of the business, in terms of the way your entrepreneurship itself, how you had to adapt, assuming touchwood it should not happen, but this kind of a crisis comes in future. So what learnings are you taking from here?
We'll let Jayashree speak. Ladies first.
Yeah, Jayashree.
All right. I think we have learned so much that personally, I don't want to go back to the old times, because this is one time where we have learned what our strengths are and seen what our weaknesses are. And if we are able to survive we are surviving the worst period. So I think we come out more confident and more focused. And I think we've never been more focused than now, whether it comes to, customer service or interacting with the customers or being in touch with the customers. And as Sharad said, looking at the database and seeing how we can make use of it. Things that we didn't believe that we could do. we have been able to do now. We've been able to stretch ourselves and, oh, this is what we can do is what we found out. Like even with less stocks, we can survive. Even with less employees, we've been able to survive. Why even with less customers, we've been able to survive and find other ways to reach out to them. So I think there's a lot that we've learned. One major thing that we've learned is expense cut. So many expenses that we were dreading even to touch. We found that yes, we can survive by cutting some of these expenses, particularly marketing. And we've been focusing more on training during this phase because this is one time we've been able to, step back. Otherwise, you are so much into the mundane routines and the daily reports that you get and everything that you don't find enough time to step back and look at the bigger picture. I think what it's really done for us is it's really been an eye opener for us to really identify our strengths and weaknesses. And I think all of us will be coming out stronger. Whoever survives will come out much, much fitter.
Sharad?
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many interesting takeaways and learning. But if you ask me, if you ask my top 3 takeaways, which I'm going to keep forever, is I think the first and most important is that less is more, actually. So when we are all in a crazy growth phase, you don't tend to look at, driving efficiency to that same level. But I think the pandemic really forced us to look hard at every part of our business. And we understood, and we looked at it. When we looked at it through that lens, we realized that you can do a lot more with a lot less. Whether it is resources, stores, people, consumers, like Jayashree said. So it's about making sure that we learn that there is an opportunity, there is a way to do more with less. That's a big, big lesson, which I don't think I'm going to ever go back to the previous days. I think the other big takeaway during this pandemic is that two very big takeaways is that you don't realize when in a journey that when you build a brand which resonates with people, we are not able to measure it in straightforward terms. But the strength of what you have built comes through only during this pandemic to say, if people are coming back, if people are resonating, that means there is something that has been built strong. So how do you make it even stronger as you go forward? Because that is what is going to hold us forward. And if you can find new ways to reach customers, but give the promise and you just make the promise even better, that's a clear thing. So big takeaway that, we've got to keep investing behind our people and behind our brand. These two are the biggest takeaways, saying that a lot of us tend to want to do it. We think we are doing it, but in reality, when you go back, you say that you're not enough of it. The methodology will change. It might become more digital. It might become the way of reaching out and the way of talking might be different. But the essence and the core cannot change. That great brands are what survive all these multiple waves in the business. And I think that's my biggest takeaway, saying that you got to come out of this pandemic thinking of building a business for the next decade again.
That's a good one. How about you, Sohail? What's your thoughts?
So I think financial discipline is something that is now very, very key, because we've realized that this business that we've built is not just for consumers, but it's for people who are employed, people who are working with us. So throughout the pandemic, what we realized was the most important part of a brand is as such is the people and its relationships. So employees come first, right? Suppliers come second, right? Consumers can choose you, not choose you, but you're building a business for your employees and for your suppliers, for your vendors, for people who are invested in you, for the community that supports you. And for all that, when you're at the head of the pack and you're representing all of them, I think that responsibility for you to behave responsible financially is extremely important. Not looking at somebody else and and trying to keep up with the Joneses. You might be looking at somebody who's doing some mindless expansion. Mindless expansion is not necessary. You're in for a marathon, not for a sprint. Some days might not be good days when somebody else looks better than you, but we're here for the long haul. And the business has to survive. The business has to thrive, and it has to create value for all its stakeholders. It has to create value for employees, for suppliers, for the community, for the government, right? And if you build your business with that mindset, then you're able to take shocks to the system, right? Of course, we were not ready for this, but I think that's something we've learned. Very tight financial discipline, because this business doesn't just belong to us.
Okay.
It belongs to the people who are invested in us emotionally, financially. There are a lot of investments in this business. People who have been working with us for eons, they have children's marriages and children's educations, and they're looking forward to all of us. They're looking forward to our organization. So that responsibility has to be taken more seriously. So yeah, I think financial responsibility number one, mindless expansion. But I think under the financial responsibility umbrella, I think everything else will come in. That's our single largest takeaway, because if there's no short term, there's no medium term or long term as well, right? So you have to survive in the short term as well, right?
Okay, that's right. Well, on that note, I have some questions coming up from the participants and audience. One, Anand Raghavan is asking, has the consumer become more discreet post-pandemic allocations funds carefully between savings and spending? Is this crisis forcing them to save more for shocks like this, and therefore spending has come down? Would you like to react to it?
Frankly, see, we're not in that, we're not big ticket items, apparel. So I think that if you see, like I said earlier in the session, we're one of the first industries to bounce back. Big ticket item, maybe large luxury cars, or I don't know how the automobile industry is doing, frankly. But housing, all that I think will come back a little more slowly, because those are big ticket items and a long-term investment. I think we've bounced back, and apparel is a great, like I said, bellwether for people's sentiment, and it's bouncing back, boss. We're very positive. We're hoping that, like we said, April 1st, 2021, pre-COVID levels, we should be back. We're keeping fingers crossed, but consumers are coming back, and I think we will now look at an upward trajectory going forward.
Okay, great. I think one more question has come from Ashwin. Do you see yourself hiring more people post Diwali? I'd like all the three to comment on this, because that's a very critical part in the entire, because since it's a very labor-oriented, I'd like to have reactions on it.
For sure. If business grows, we will need more people.
Yeah,
absolutely. We will create employment, and we will hire more people. We will bring in more people, for sure. We're hoping that the business bounces back, because we will bring back more people. I think that's a clear focus for us.
Sharad?
Yeah, I think we are already seeing it, that there are specific areas where we had held back. We had kind of put it in the back burner for some time to wait and see how things pan out and how fast they pan out. But as they come back, selected areas where you need to strengthen, definitely you will see that hiring will happen. And we ourselves are already looking at specific areas where we think that we need to invest behind further. So people is actually an investment. It's not a cost. So if it's like an investment, you have to think through like an investment and say, which is the most important parts where you need to strengthen yourself for the future. So we are actually already on that path where I would say, reorganized our human resources.
Jayashree?
Yes, it all depends again as to how the restrictions are being lifted. I think there's still some norms with regard to the social distancing and the number of employees in a particular store. So as that is lifted, yes, we will be bringing in more employees. Again, see, when it comes to Palam, it's all about, it's very design oriented, and we need to do a lot of training to the employees when it comes to the particular concepts and the designs. Only if they really know about the product, they will be able to even do a good sale. So it's so important for us to bring back those employees who have already been trained by us. So it works well for us if we are able to bring them back, because it's very difficult to train new people. By the time you train it, it takes months. So we would be happy to bring them back. So waiting for things to pick up and looking forward to April.
Okay, we have one last question from Shantaram. He's asking, what kind of a change have you seen in the unit economics? Has the medium price per garment for in-store sales come down or gone up, and by how much? Would you like to respond, or Suhail or Sumit?
It's gone up. Frankly,
It's
it's
gone
gone
up.
up. The average
Yeah.
ticket size has gone up because I think
Would you
window
be able to
shopping.
quantify? Would you be able to quantify that?
I think 15, between 10 and 15% it's gone up because I think people are coming in with specific purpose. People are not ambling. People are not just walking into a store. Like I said, the mall culture will take some time to come back. So in a high street store, it's purpose driven. And it's purpose driven, then I think that, see, when you have a great offering, right, a consumer is willing to trade up. And we've all had, I think, 2 or 3 months at home to sit and improve our offering and improve all of it. So our offering is good. So frankly, ticket sizes, average prices have gone up, they've not come down.
Okay. Sharad?
Pricing has not gone up, Raja, but I think the average basket size in terms of the average bill values have gone up. Like Sued said, customers are very focused about what they want. And not everyone just looking for a deal. They're actually looking for a good value which they can get. And a lot of us have good merchandise and well packaged and well presented merchandise. So consumers are really trading up.
Okay. Jayshree, would you like to add?
I agree with Sharath because here I think you have only serious shoppers coming in. It's not like you're bored and you go out to shop. That's not going to happen now. So you have your serious shoppers, and particularly since ours is like more into, we are into the Kanjivrams and silk saris, definitely the bill value and the average bill value is quite good. I don't think the cost of the saris or the prices have gone up because only when demand increases, there can even be an increase in prices, what I feel. So that hasn't happened so far, and we hope that doesn't happen even in the next few months.
Okay. Well, thank you. That was the last question. Before I close, let me thank all the three panelists who graciously accepted our invitation. I know it was a Diwali week, but a big thank you to all the three, and a big thank you to all the participants also. We had a good response to this event, so we
Thank you, and wishing Jayashree and Charath all the very best for the season. Let's hope
Wish you the same.
Yeah. Okay. And Diwali wishes to one and all. So have a nice day.
All a happy Diwali as well.
Happy Diwali to everyone.
Happy Diwali to everybody. Thanks, Raja and the entire Hindu team.
Thank you.